Good morning, everyone. A very good morning. Shall we begin the session? Today's topic is the constructors and the destructors. Yeah, in the last class, we have finished with the objects, classes, how to return an object, what are the classes that we use, what is a header file. Yeah, so let's start with the constructors and the destructors in the today's class. So we have seen so far a few examples of the classes that has been implemented. In all the cases, we have the member functions such as the put data and the set value to provide initial values to the private member variables. For example, a dot input that invokes the member function input which assigns the initial value to the data items of object A. Similarly, the statement x dot get data that is 100 to 99 that passes the initial value as an argument to the function get data where these values are assigned to the private variables of the object x. And all these function use that statement are used with the appropriate objects that have already been created. And these functions cannot be used to initialize the member variables at the time of creation of their objects. Now preceding or providing the initial value as described that does not conform with the philosophy of the C++ language. So we have used with the C++ to create the user-defined data types as the classes that they behave very similar to the built-in types. And it is also been used to initialize the class type variable object when it is declared and much the same way as initialization of the ordinary variable. For example, int m equals to 20, we initialize the value of as 20, float x equals to 5.75 that are the valid initialization statement for the basic data types. Similarly, when a variable or built-in goes out of scope, then the compiler automatically destroys the variable. But it has not happened with the objects so far have studied, and it is therefore clear that some more feature of the classes need to be explored and that would enable us to initialize the object when they are created and destroy them when their presence is no longer necessary. And C++ also provides a special member function known as a constructor that enables an object to initialize itself when it is created. So it is possible to initialize objects itself only, and this is known as the automatic initialization of the objects. That also provides another member function known as the destructors that destroys the object when they are no longer required. So when we talk about the constructors, it is a special data member, so the member function whose task is to initialize the objects. So its main role to initialize the objects of its classes. That is very special because its name is same as the class name. And whenever a constructor is involved, or whenever an object is created out, so they are both the same name. Now, next question arises why it is known as the constructors, because it constructs, it changes, or it modifies the value of the data members of the class. Now, can anyone define what is a class? Yeah, it is a collection of data members and the member functions. So whenever I want to fetch, whenever I want to construct the members, whenever I want to construct the values of the data members of the class, it is used with the constructors. And it is declared and defined as follows: class integer int mmn, public integer void, constructor declared, then class will be closed. Now we are use the constructor that is defined. So this is the definition of the constructor integer and the integer void. M equals to 0, n equals to 0. And whenever a class contains a constructor that is like the one defined above, it is guaranteed that an object that is created by the class will be initialized automatically. For example, the declaration integer int1 not only creates the object int1 of the type integer, but it also initializes its data member mn into the 0. And there's no need to write any statement to invoke the constructor defined, but it is used with the normal functions. And if a normal member function is defined for a zero initialization, we would need to invoke this function for each of the objects separately. This would be very convenient if there are large number of objects that is defined. So if there are multiple objects that is defined, we can also use the constructor in that case, because it is very good usage if the constructor will be used with the function separately. And the constructor that accepts no parameter is known as a default constructor. The default constructor for class A is A and the A. If no such constructor is defined, then the compiler supplies a default constructor. Therefore, a statement such as the A and the A invokes the default constructor of the compiler to create the object A. And this constructor function has also some special characteristics features. What are these? They should be declared in the public section. They are invoked automatically when the objects are created. They do not have any return value, return type, not even void, and therefore they cannot return the values. They cannot be, next point is they cannot be inherited. Therefore, a derived class can call the base class constructors. And like other C++ functions, they have also they can have a default arguments. One important point is that constructors cannot be a virtual, and we cannot refer to their addresses. And whenever we uses the object with the constructor that can be used cannot be used as a member of a union. They make implicit calls to a function. They make implicit calls to the operators new and the delete when the memory allocation is required. There are two parts, new and the delete. New is used for the allocating of the memory, delete is used to deallocate the memory. So new and the delete are used to allocate and deallocate the memory. So remember that when a constructor is declared for a class, initialization of the same class with the class object must be mandatory, must be used. Next is parameterized constructor. How we can use the parameterized constructor? What is the usage of this? So we initialize the value of the data member of all the objects to the 0. That is a parameterized constructor. They are used as a constructor function when the objects are created, and they can take the arguments. Whenever they take the argument, they are known as a parameterized constructor. So this constructor integer can be modified or may be modified to take the arguments class integer int mn. Now we are passing the two arguments in this x and y, that is a variable, so that becomes a parameterized constructor. That is the integer int x and the y. There are two arguments over here that is defined x and the y. Now we initialize the value of the x to the m, y to the n. In the starting phase, at the first one, we initialize the value of the m and the n with the 0. In this case, we pass the argument with the x and the y with the m and the n. And whenever a constructor has been parameterized, the object declaration statements such as the integer int1 may not work. And we must pass the initial values as an argument to the constructor function when an object is declared. How it is declared? Again, there are two parts, explicitly or the implicitly. So integer int1 equals to integer 0, and this statement creates an object int1 and passes the value 0 to the 100 to 8. Now second is implemented with the integer int 0, that is implicit call, that is known as the shorthand method, that is used very often as it is shorter, looks better, and easy to implement. Yeah, this is so obvious. This is a short method. And remember, when the constructor is parameterized, we must provide the appropriate argument for the constructor that demonstrates the passing of the argument to the constructor function.